It is October 27th, and we have another episode of This Week in Google Glass, otherwise known as Wearable Today. Today, we're going to be talking about Fitbit. We're going to be talking about Android Wear. We're going to be talking about Google Glass and how KFC is using Google Glass in their area. We're going to talk about all that and a whole bunch more. This is Wearable Today. And of course, I always, it's like This Week in Google Glass. If you're coming in from This Week in Google Glass, well, thank you very much. Of course, we changed the name a couple weeks ago. Very excited about it because it actually expands our region. Luke Wallace is out of the office today. He's actually they're actually on travel. He's going on. He'll be down in Florida, and he's going to be getting some video of Big Cat Rescue. Of course, if you remember correct. About a year ago, Carol Baskin from Big Cat Rescue, she was on the show, and she basically, he's going down and checking out these big cats, and I told him to get some Google Glass and get some video footage. We'll see what happens from there. You can find me over at Geekazine, Think Magazine, Put in a Geek, or Jeff at Twig.tv, Jeff at Twig.tv. We're going to be changing that to Jeff at WearableToday.tv, or I'm sorry, WearableToday.com. But I haven't gotten to that part yet. So Luke can be found at Luca, Lukeluca, and of course Luke at Twig.tv with 2 G's. Remember that over there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, another thing is I'm actually using a different computer to record today because of the Yosemite problems. I'll talk about that in a second here. But first of all, I got to find my mouse. Let's get into your big news, little arms. Roar! And of course, I got to do the roar because Luke's not here today. So let's get into the news. First of all, just want to let you know, hey, everything you can find is over at wearabletoday.com or thisweekingoogleglass.com or twig.tv. However you get there, you will get there, and you've gotten there. So let's start over at San Francisco Gate here. Fitbit announced 3 new trackers today, the Fitbit Charge, the Charge HR, and the Surge. They're the next generation of devices for that San Francisco-based company. Starting at $130, you can get the Charge. For $150 is the Charge HR, and the Surge is $250. Now, Fitbit had a small setback earlier in this year when Fitbit Force brands had an adverse reaction to some people's skin causing rashes. Fitbit has said that they've resolved the problem and are ready to move forward. And with these new devices, I can see that happening. What are your thoughts on that? Let us know, Jeff at Twig.tv or Luke at Twig.tv. Let's roll on from there. We're going to move over to, and sorry for there we go. Okay, here we go. Android Wear 4.24 watt 4.4W.2 rolls out for Android Wear. The notifications can now be hidden with a swipe in the middle of the screen to the bottom. Users have been asking this so they can show off their watch face without having to dismiss the notifications. Previously, this could be done, but you had to mute all notifications from the device and then swipe from the top of the screen to the bottom. So it's new features for that. So and of course Google's working on it. They really want to put Android Wear as the defining back end to any type of wearable device, whether it be a watch, whether it be glass, whether it be a sensor on your body or whatnot. So doing the customizations that we need and we ask for are very important, and they're looking into that. And as you can see, they're listening and going from there. If you want to read more on that, go over to Android Police. Next up, 5 new companies have been certified with Google Glass. And the Glass developer partnered, this just happened today, 3 of them, Pristine of Austin, Texas, for secure video communication with healthcare workers. Ubimax from Germany for improving the manufacturing and Interapt of Louisville, Kentucky. That was a hard name to say. Interapt of Louisville, Kentucky for fast food employee training. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later with KFC. Chris O'Neill, the global operations business of Google Glass, basically states that while they continue to work with consumers with Google Glass, they notice that enterprise seems to have a new use case every single week. So they focus. They have a team that I guess they have a team that focuses on the Google Glass for Business. I see this more as less of a consumer model or consumer thing and more of a business thing. Think about it. How many KFCs are out there in the world? If they get like 10 pairs of glass for KFC, just KFC alone, that's a pretty good model right there. So we got the article over at usatoday.com. Next up, Lenovo very quietly, they quietly revealed their smartband SWB100, but they say a lot of people say that it looks a little bit too similar to the Fitbit Edge. The device basically tracks your steps and your distance travels, your calories burned, your heart rate, and sleep habits, just like before. The back end, though, or just like with Fitbit, the back end, though, is not Android Wear. And there's no price or availability yet. They're just showing off a proof of concept for the device there. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how Lenovo goes. If it doesn't have Android Wear on it, I'm guessing there's got to be another wearable standard that's going to be coming out. And I don't know if Microsoft is working on a wearable standard. I don't know if Apple is working. Well, they are working. They got their OS for a wearable device right now with the Apple Watch. At least that's what we've been told to believe. So we'll see what happens there. In more information, all you have to do is go over to theverge.com to find out what's going on here. I was going to make a brand new graphic, didn't have time to do it. It's a new section, a new segment we're calling the Apple Watch Watch. And basically, since Apple Watch has not come out yet, we've got a watch for the watch. So therefore, Apple Watch Watch. And where's my mouse? There you are. And it works over at Wearable.com. And basically, it's talking about crowdfunders. So it kind of works with our crowdfunders, the Fund Me segment, and the Apple Watch Watch segment. So here come the crowdfunders. Switch watchmaker DWISS, DWISS, is already planning its own range of accessories. The company launched on an Indiegogo campaign to create the watch band, parts, and watch faces. For $5, you can actually get a watch face that can protect the Apple Watch. And for $19, you can get an Apple Watch protective cover. And then, of course, they'll have watch bands, metal watch bands, leather watch bands, so on and so forth. It looks pretty interesting. You can get them in a whole range of colors, and it definitely is going to protect it. And it also looks like when you put it on the charger, that it will be able to charge your device without problem. So we'll see what happens here, but it definitely ushers in the whole crowdfund of Apple Watch devices. And we'll see cases. We'll see watch bands. I'm hoping there's going to be somebody that makes a train conductor chain. I'd actually be wearing that if this week if I had one of those, and of course the Apple Watch, which is not out just yet. So if you want to read more on that, we've got that article over at Wearable.com. You can check that out over there. All right, why'd that flip over? That's interesting. How you doing? Jeffrey Powers here from geekazine.com, and of course, This Week in Google Glass. Thanks a lot for watching. We're doing the show just a little bit different today because of the fact there's two reasons why. One, Luke was on vacation this last week, and like I said, he's in Florida right now, and he's I think about right now that I'm recording this, he's actually talking with Carol Baskin from Big Cat Rescue. So they're just having some fun over there. He's learning a little bit more about the place. Now, for me, in 24 hours, less than 24 hours, I'm actually going to hop a train and head to New York City. And that's going to be very exciting because it's completely different. Something usually I take a plane somewhere, but this time I'm taking a train, and I'm really excited about this. So I'm gonna be wearing some wearables. I'll definitely have. I'll see about the Google Glass. It's really what I can pack, and the biggest thing is if this was foldable, if they finally made a foldable version, I might just start bringing it with me again. But in the last couple trips, I haven't taken my Google Glass, and it's helped me so much on a lot of reasons. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here. But I definitely will be taking the GoPro, be doing some videos from the roomette. We're going to be in the train. I'll do one of my hotel reviews. If you go over to youtube.com/geekazine, you'll see the hotel reviews that I've done so far. So this is kind of a hotel because we're going to be staying there for the next 27 hours as we go from train stop to train stop to train stop. And of course, it's going to be beautiful because the leaves are in full bloom right now. In fact, they're starting to fall off the trees here in Madison, Wisconsin. But when we get up to New York, it should start to really pop out. We'll be in West Virginia. We'll be in Kentucky. We'll be in Indiana. It's going to be a lot of fun. Because of that, next week we will not have a show because we'll be coming back from New York. And and Luca, I think, is still on vacation at that point. So at this point in time, no show for next week. So just so you know, a little programming note language here. Also, since the fact that I had put Yosemite onto the laptop, this version of Wirecast isn't really working too well with Yosemite. So I decided to start using my regular desktop for these types of recordings because it's got a better graphics card, it's got more memory, it's got more power to it than the MacBook. So it makes more sense to do that. So as I'm doing this, I'm looking at the other computer screen, making sure that everything is working perfect. So one more thing, you notice the beard's starting to come in a little bit, and of course I got some gray right here. So it kind of looks weird right now, but as it grows in a little bit more, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And that's pretty much it. Let's get into your basically our featured articles for today. First of all, can Google Glass save KFC, and other fast food companies millions of dollars? Well, that's what they're banking on. KFC did a test. KFC is looking into the prompts of prepper of foods that would go by step-by-step instructions on not only how to prepare the food, but also do things like properly shut down a fryer, the actual proper store closing. Why does that keep moving back? Proper store closing. And a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, KFC is owned by Yum Brands, which also they also own Taco Bell. They also own Pizza Hut. And I actually, a little side note, my college days, and this back in the 90s, 1990, I worked at Taco Bell for college money. So, and that's about when Yum Brands took over. At that time, I think it was Pepsi had it, and then Yum Brands took it over, or something like that. I'm not on the whole thing. But the whole idea is by doing these instructional manuals where you basically, it would have instructions. You just tap on it and it's like, okay, step 1, make sure all the baskets are out of the fryer. Okay, poof. Step 2, turn off the fryer by doing this, and this, and then wait so long before you start to drain. Because there's more than just turning off the fryer. Sometimes you have to drain the oil and put in new oil so the fries taste decent. And other steps. When I worked at Taco Bell, they always pushed, you got to have this much of cheese and this much of lettuce. You could basically be swiping back and forth, and I need to make a taco. Grab a shell, put in this much amount of meat, this much amount of cheese. Yum Brands believes that it's going to save them millions of dollars. Not only in saving on portions, but also in lawsuits. If they properly train and have that training on hand for employees to do things right, if they don't do things right, then they have a basis. So if the employee comes back and says, I got hurt because I was working the fryers and I shut them down and they blew back at me and I got oil all over myself and it burned myself. Yum Brands goes, well, you went through the training how many times? And did you do it this way, this way, and this way? And if not, then, sorry, but, you didn't do it right. So, and I know that sounds a little bit crass there, but the reality is with companies like this, being able to say, okay, this is how you do it this way every single time. And if they don't do it that way, who's to blame? Especially at store closing. If somebody robs the place, you can say you didn't go through the store closing steps and go from there. I see this as a very productive on the back end, not so productive on the front end. I'm still not 100% sure that if I walked up to the front cash register with a pair of Google Glass, that people would be too happy about that. So there are certain areas where Google Glass would be needed. The other thing is care of the Google Glass. You think about it, I mean, if you're prepping food, your hands get greasy, dirty, filled, food, you clean them off all the time. But if you're making food, you need to swipe back and forth. And this needs to be as sanitary as these do when you're making somebody's taco or chicken or whatnot. So interesting stuff. We'll see what happens. They said it was a very good test. They're ready to go to the next step, but it definitely looks like something that we can see in the future for those companies and see what happens. And like I said, Chris O'Neill said it was on case by case basis. You think about it with KFC. You got to remember this would not be a pair of Google Glass that they could then take out of the store and connect up to the internet. This would probably be a more specific version of Google Glass that hooks up to servers or something, the internet through their secure system. So if somebody did steal a pair of these, they'll figure out how to make chicken. You probably won't get the 11 herbs and and spices thing that everybody's been trying to get, but they'll learn how to turn off a fryer or close a KFC. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how the case by case usage of this goes, and go from there. So, but what are your thoughts? If it makes your food come out faster, if it makes, would you go to KFC more if it makes your chicken come out faster and better? Let me know, Jeff at twig.tv, Luke at twig.tv, and of course, Geekazine is the Twitter handle. All right. Computers are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and they're getting more interesting, and that's where we're going next. We've got this. It's an actual very interesting article over at the New York Times about wearable technology that feels and look like skin. Now you're seeing this one picture, and it looks like a Band-Aid with a couple pieces of, I don't know, a couple chips in there, and they don't even look like computer chips. They just look pretty cool. And if you mask that, it could be a Band-Aid. It could be look like your regular skin and go from there. But if you think about the implications of something like this, where you can turn around and you can place something on the skin, EEG, for example, or you go in for sleep apnea testing. You went in before, they basically had these electrodes that they'd hook onto you, and they'd be wires that would go to a device that would then monitor. I actually tested when I started in technology. I tested those machines, and it was really interesting to see a person completely hooked up with all these wires. And I thought to myself, within an hour, I'd probably turn and rip all of those out from there. But the whole point is, you'll be able. They put these little things all over you, and they might be a little bit irritating. Something on your forehead or something like that. But the reality is, you can then sleep, you can walk, you can run, you can do whatever you need to do. They take off the computer, they hook it back up. Maybe they have some sort of wireless way to hook up to the computer, send signal, and then tell you, you're running a little bit high, on a little bit hot. You're running your pulse is a little bit high. Your blood pressure's not doing too well. Whatever you can talk about with these devices and go from there. Very interesting article over at New York Times. I was very intrigued to see how that came about. And of course, they talk about this company called, what's it called, MC10. They're based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They're testing the attachable computers, and they look like stickers. So you might be full of stickers on your forehead, on your neck, or whatever. And yeah, they do have wireless antennas, and they'll measure temperature, heart rate sensors, all with a very tiny battery. So interesting stuff here, and how we can change things. And the best part about these computers, is they work with your body. So as long as they're stuck to the body, and they show this one, I'll go back to this. they show this one. Let's bring it down. There it is. It's a piece of skin, and of course they pushed it together to wrinkle up the skin. And as you can see, the computer moves with the skin, wrinkle for wrinkle. So if you have one on your cheek and you're smiling, then it's not going to mess everything up and go from there. That was an ad on the bottom corner, by the way, and I'm not exactly sure what that's about, but it happens. So anyway, and they're saying eventually it'll be a more intimate integration of electronics and biological systems. So we'll see what happens, but it's definitely, like I said, you go in for a sleep study or sleep apnea. A lot of people are doing that nowadays, figuring out if they have sleep apnea. So they go to I can't pronounce that one, but the people that measure sleep, and they run you through an EEG. But the EEG will just be a bunch of stickers that send wireless signals rather than a whole bunch of connections that are led to wires, which they hook up to a box, which send to the computer. And interesting stuff. I can't wait to see how the healthcare area changes with this, because you could be wearing one of those monitors like right over your heart, and it's sending back information similar to what a pacemaker would do, and go from there. So what are your thoughts on it? Do you like this idea? Do you not like this idea? Are we getting too Terminator-ish or robotic-ish or whatever you want to call it-ish? Let me know. You can Twitter me over at Geekazine. Of course, Jeff at twig.tv, twig.tv, or twig.tv. I have to think about these things. And soon, Jeff at wearabletoday.com. All right, well, that does it for this episode. I told you it was going to be a short episode of This Week in Google Glass or Wearable Today. Thanks a lot. And of course, thanks for everybody that sent all the warm wishes. I want to show you this once again. This is the Wearable Today logo. And of course, if you're listening, you don't get to see that. But, we're still working on it. That's still the first draft of it. We'll get the final draft out soon. And then we'll be revamping the site a little bit with the new logo and go from there. But thanks to everybody that sent all the emails about This Week in Google Glass and how you're sticking with the show. And you think it's a great idea to actually do the expansion and go from there. We have a lot of exciting things coming up. We've got Marco. I just talked with Marco today. He was from MakerBot. We're going to talk more. He's going to bring in some more wearable 3D wearable MakerBot type devices that we will then show onto the show, and he'll come on regular segments. And of course, Luke will be here as always. This is just a very off week for that to happen, and since we had like a 3-week difference, wanted to make sure we had a show in between. So. All right, well, that does it for This Week in Wearable Today, or This Week in Google Glass, however you want to call it. Jeffrey Powers, you can catch me at jeff@twig.tv, or Geekazine is my Twitter handle. Excuse me, we will be back in 2 weeks, unless something special happens. And then, of course, me and Luke will be talking about news of Google Glass, news of wearable technology, and a whole lot more. Thanks a lot for watching. You guys geek out, and we'll see you next time on This Week. Where's my mouse? There you are. This Week in Google Glass or Wearable Today.